All right. Happy Saturday, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the No Holds Barred Wrestling Podcast here on FTSN. I'm Bobby Melendez, joined always by my tag team partner, Josh Kimmel. Josh, are you frozen?
No, I'm
Oh,
reading. So,
oh,
I just I
you,
found
you, no reaction at all. As soon as we went live, I was like, oh, okay.
no, I'm engulfed in this website that I was just looking up. I'm like, let me look up, see if I can get more because cagematch.net is like the where everyone goes for results in depth. But for me, it's a little too cluttered. So I was trying to find a different website for like wins loss records. So I Googled Mercedes Mone um win loss record since joining AEW, and I found AEWresults.com, and I'm like, this website's clean, it's awesome. No, they're not a sponsor. No, I'm not an AEW mark today, but like this is a nice website, AEWresults.com. I don't know if it's an AEW product or not, but it's pretty sleek.
That's
It's
cool.
all
There you go. Hey, good to know. Good to know. Maria already in the comments. I hope you're doing well, Maria. Hope you had a great 4th of July. Um, I did. We got to chill out. I did some kind of cleaning. We chased down some fireworks yesterday. We could see them from the house. So that was really cool. Didn't catch much of SmackDown. I know the basics. I know kind of what went down based off social media. But didn't really watch much, so I have to catch up on that. Watching currently the Summer League right now, Miami Heat taking on the San Antonio Spurs, and of course, talking professional wrestling with my brother Josh Kimmel. And we're going deep because last episode we went into this whole debate, and it was so much fun that I was like, we need to get back into this. So it was about Mecedes Mone and kind of branched off to other things. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk Mecedes Mone because how many titles does she have now, Josh? Is it
on
six,
this new
five? I don't
on
want
this
to.
new sleek website here. I was actually trying to find that information because I think it's only AEW recognized, but I think it's about 5 at this point.
Okay.
So, she's crushing it. She's doing really well. She's beating everybody. So, what else is there for? She's 24-2 since joining AEW. She's 0-2 in tag matches. That's it. Seriously, she's
That
0-2 in
doesn't
tag matches.
count.
That's her 2 losses. So she's
Wow.
0-2. So, Mecedes is a Mount Rushmore wrestler for sure. She definitely is. And I'm not going to be here, or we're not going to sit here and just trash Mecedes Mone tonight, but we
No.
are going to talk about instances where wrestlers have abused their power, or what we've heard stories from, right? We don't know this for fact. And is it good for wrestling? Is someone like Mecedes Mone with creative control, is it good for today's world of professional wrestling? And we're going to go through some examples from the past. Is that a good rundown for today's show, Bobby?
Yeah, yeah. Again, and you said it best. We're going to talk about Mecedes Mone and her current run with AEW and what she's done in professional wrestling since joining AEW. Well, since New Japan and AEW, because when someone is very successful, especially someone like Mecedes Mone, who Maria says is on the one of the Mount Rushmore type wrestler. Uh, they get a lot of slack and a lot of flack, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, dude, you see, they're not putting over the young ones. They're going to different companies and taking their titles. They should lose. They should drop the belt, or they should lose to this person. And that's always been a critique, not just for somebody like Mecedes Mone, but for others, Jeff Jarrett, Goldberg, Roman Reigns, Hulk Hogan, Becky Lynch. I mean, all the big names out there. And of course, anytime somebody is successful or keeps themselves on top, the first thing people want to bring up or say, especially the top stars who earn this creative control, who earn the right to say, hey, I don't feel comfortable doing this. This does not make sense. All of a sudden, they're called Mercedes Hogan. They're called Becky Hogan, Steve Hogan, John Hogan. It's always they throw that in there. And Mecedes Mone said it recently. She said, "Don't call me Mercedes Hogan. Call her Mercedes Omega, because she has all the belts." So it's out there. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Is Mecedes Mone, or something like that type of superstar, is she good for wrestling? Is she bad for wrestling? So that's what we're going to dive into. Kevin Nash yesterday was on fire on Twitter, man. He was going off. Not for wrestling reasons, but
Okay.
yeah, I know you haven't seen that yet because you're not on social media, but I know you will, and you will have an opinion because I know probably not as bad, I don't think. But either way, Adrian, what's up, my man? Sammy, I appreciate you tuning in. We definitely got to get Sammy and Adrian on the show. Josh, they were on Rainy Day Pod. Shout out to the Rainy Day Pod, and they were talking wrestling. They were on there, and they're going to do a preview, or they did a preview for Night of Champions. So we got to get them on and to talk wrestling here with us. But
right on. I wanted to do this real quick. I'm going to take it over for a second because
that's okay.
Because Maria, and I hate to single out one person, but I am going to, because I think we park our cars in the same garage. I think Mercedes is magnificent. And she's wonderful. I think she's one of the best workers the women's divisions has ever seen. But I'm going to ask you this, Bobby. Has anyone been elevated since May 26, 2024, when Mecedes Mone first debuted and beat Willow Nightingale at Double or Nothing? Willow Nightingale was hot. She was a awesome baby face. She was a mixture of Bailey and just, I guess it's their version of Bailey. She was high energy, great, on top of the world. Mercedes beats her. She hasn't been the same since. Then she goes off and beats Sky Blue, another up and comer. Where's she been? Well, she's been hurt. She's coming back, or she is back. Then she has some jobber matches against Zeuxis, right? And then on June 30th, 2024, she defeats Stephanie Vaquer in her only AEW debut, or only AEW performance at Forbidden Door. So those 4 women I just talked about right there, the first 4 women Mercedes wrestled. Do you know where they are now? And yes, you know where one is now. So is her actions really good for this division? That her first 4 opponents, you don't even know where they are. No one does. Well, Stephanie Vaquera, we know where she is. Her job was to bring in talent and elevate these women at the start. She was the CEO. She's supposed to lead a division. All she's doing is leading herself.
So very quick, great points in regards of what she's done for elevating her peers, right? The younger peer, like what has she done to bring? Because again, Becky Lynch, look what even though she ended up beating Valkyria eventually, look what she did for her. Now it's hard to ignore her. Now she's put her up to a point where now Valkyria could go in another direction and still be successful. Mecedes Mone has not done that yet. Toni Storm did that with Mariah May. Toni Storm was already there. She had an awesome program with Mariah May, and now Mariah May was skyrocketed in AEW, and so much so that WWE took her when she was gone, and now look what she's doing in NXT, and we'll see where she goes from there. So for that example is fair. And thank you, Sammy, for clarifying. Kevin Nash is another one, right, with booking and all this. There's a history. We'll get into all that. But when she says has elevated women wrestling, what I think she meant, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Maria could correct me, because if I'm wrong, then you got your point is correct. Your point is on point, and she could go back and forth with you. I think she means like she's elevated women wrestling as a whole. She's made, she's one of the standouts. She's one of those, like the Charlottes and the Beckys and the that's what I think she meant by that. Because my thing is, you say she came in as the CEO, she came in to elevate. I don't think she did. She's not some aged veteran that's going to retire in 2 years, and she's still in her prime. She's still one of the best, right? You think so? You think she's the best? Why would she come in as the CEO, the boss, all that, and then let me lose to a bunch of nobodies? Hell no. That doesn't make sense. That kills her character. Now I don't think she should win every match. I don't think she should be 24-0, only 2 tag team losses. However, I don't think she's going to come in and, start losing to a bunch of people we don't even know. Maybe you may know, maybe the IWC would know, but
let me ask you this. So I'm going to count, because this is it's getting at me as you're talking.
That's good.
Elevating her this, elevating what? What has been done since this debut in AEW? What has been done since she left WWE?
No,
What
get
is her
that.
CM Punk Drew McIntyre story? Where is any of her stories? What has she told? What are we going to look back at and go, man, that feud with was awesome. There has been zero. The only one that is semi decent was Willow, because Willow's the one who put her out of action when she was over there in Japan. Willow's the one who put her out of action
But
for
that
the
was in
Strong Style
Japan.
Championship.
Yeah, but that
But yeah,
was.
they carried it over and said, "Hey,
I know. I
you're
get it.
not
I get that. Yeah, I get it.
Other than
No,
that, you go through all these Sheeta, Britt Baker, Sheeta, Sakura, Queen Amadonna, Chris Statlander, which right there, Chris Statlander was the one to take down Jade, but she can't take down Mercedes. Buried. Anna Jay, what's that story? Chris Statlander again. Harley Cameron. People want to say Harley Cameron. Where is she at? What is she doing? Is she going against Tony Storm? Is she going against the TBS title? No, because they're both tied up in the same story. So don't give me this Harley Cameron stuff, because she's not been elevated either.
I
Billy
understand that.
Starks.
I'm not arguing that what she's been since she's been in AEW, but I think that's an AEW issue. That's not a Mecedes Mone issue.
But if she has control over what she's going to do, like Kenny Omega does, say what you want about Kenny Omega. Every time he's on television, he's trying to put a story together, even if it doesn't make sense. The Young Bucks kill him, put him out of action. He comes back and there's no word of it. He's still trying to make some kind of sense of it, though. For Mercedes, there's just no story. It's just match, match, match. I'm not going to elevate anyone or even myself, because I'm just doing matches. And I think that's what I mean by killing the division, because you're look at WWE right now. We care about Rhea and what she's going to do with no title. We care about what Liv was doing, even though she was a women's tag team champion. I mean, in reality, those belts are meaningless. We cared about what Liv was going to do, not what Liv and Raquel were going to do. There's so many women on the WWE end where we care about their stories and why they're telling the story. Whereas the biggest star, not only just in that company, AEW, probably the biggest star in all of wrestling in the women's division, can't tell one story. That's my problem. She's the one who brought the writer in. She got a writer in for herself.
Who's the writer?
What's her excuse?
Who's
Stephanie
the writer?
Pepperday, this Pepperday lady. Imagine you're
what does she do?
She writes specifically for Mercedes. She was brought in specifically for Mercedes.
But what's
nobody
her?
Else.
No, I mean, like, but what I get that. What's her experience though? Like, what
she was in WWE? Yeah,
she worked for WWE. Okay.
Yeah. And for Mercedes. So that's like saying that's like Tua. That's like Tua saying, "Hey, I need this quarterback coach. He's gonna we're gonna make some magic," and then he goes out there and just lays duds, and there's just nothing. And that's what's happening right now, honestly.
So, and Maria is and I love it. And Adrian says AEW buried the entire women's division for her. Maria is up there, saying that she put Stephanie Vercure on the map after Forbidden Door, putting Bianca Belair on the map at WrestleMania. I know Stephanie Vercure was already, was very out there already. I knew who she was outside of WWE. She's going to have good matches. It's a different thing because, and Rhea Ripley, because they just to use that example, Rhea Ripley went out on top against Raquel, but she made Raquel look very, very, very good to the point that now people are saying, man, Raquel, I want to see her have a run. And that would be on WWE if they do that. It's not going to be on Rhea. Rhea went over. She should go over, but she made Raquel look really good. And that's what you want out of your top star. So much so, like what Becky did with Valkyra, that after that match, you're going, damn, dude, Valkyra, man, she's great on the mic. She's great in the ring. That's a future star. And now look, they were supposed to be Becky versus Bayley, and Valkyra is right in the middle of that. And they're, wait, she's going to have a turn. Is she this and that? The late Bray Wyatt had his own writers. And that, honestly, I have my own opinion of that, but
can I just step in? Yeah, but he did. And guess what? Everything he did, I know The Fiend was not my favorite, but everything Bray Wyatt did, at least it had a story. I remember what he was doing with Daniel Bryan. I remember what he did with Randy Orton.
Yeah.
I remember what he did with all these other talents. With Mercedes, I don't remember any of these. I'll just go down to here, right here. I'll just stop right here. Boom. Sheeta. Why was Sheeta fighting Mercedes? What was the reason? Was there any kind of personal grudge? Was it a she took my spot? Was it a this or that? There has been none of that with Mercedes. None of that.
And again, I will just say on the other side of it, again, bringing in your own writer, coming in as the CEO, like I agree. The story thing, and that again, I think there's only a few stories in AEW that that's been there since history that that people still talk about since it started. I mean, again, you had the Tony Storm and Mariah May. There's a little bit, but that's not AEW's forte. It's because they let everybody, go ahead and do your thing. That's what it is. And so you give Mecedes Mone this power, and you go, okay, go in there. Hey, you're maybe one of the top stars in wrestling. We got you. I want to bring my own writer. Okay, you earned that because of who you are. That your name has earned that. Bring in your own writer. I want to work with these people here. Great. Let's work with them. I'm going to go over. Okay. Do you mind giving this I'm not saying this part right here happened, but do you want to lose to Nightingale or whomever that is? And would you could go, her to go over? Why? What do you mean why? Why? Well, just to let her get over. She's young. We're trying to bring her up, but what happens after? Why would I lose? Who is she? What have I done? You know what I mean? It's to me, like I get it, but like you said, if there's no story to that, it's hard to answer the why. Because what happens after that point? And that's what these stars, the big stars, which earned their right to be there and earned their right to ask why, and it doesn't work for me, brother. That's how they survive. And that's why those other ones don't. They fall off the cliff. Of course. And then, you got Crying Wolf. Oh, so-and-so held me down. Well, what did you do to earn that right? You didn't. They did. And that's why for me, it's like when you're talking about what has she done to elevate basically women, the other stars in AEW to make them bigger stars. What has she done? There's not much to be done. I mean, again, I think that's more in AEW than her, because I understand her coming in and be like, okay, she's going to come in and lose to this person. Who's that person? There was no one as big as her. And the problem with AEW and maybe her is like, it's a bunch of, let's put her against this person. It's gonna be a great match. She's not going to go, that person's not going over. Mercedes will, and it's a one-off. That's why I think Tony Storm should go over on Mecedes Mone. And I think she will.
I think she should too. And I'm a big Mercedes fan. I see somebody in the chat stating that, I hate her and love her at the same time. And I'm in the same boat. So we're going to be talking about that a lot. And, there's a lot of people on this list on this show we're going to talk about tonight, not just Mecedes Mone. We're going to get into Cena and Shawn Michaels and Randy Orton. There's many other people that abuse or they think doing the right thing for their story and their character. But to say it's all AEW's fault for booking Mercedes, what's the topic of the night? Their control, their abuse of power, or their politics. So you're right. It is AEW's fault. They should say, no, this is a stupid idea, Mercedes. We should let you tell a story with Chris Statlander instead of just beating her flat twice. So it is AEW's fault for not telling her no. But again, is it bad that she can do this and no other woman in that company can? No one could veto her. No one can say no to her. That's bad.
I don't know what her contract is. I don't know if there is such, if they can't say no to her. But the problem is maybe you're in the way that it's not in the contract, because if you say no, you have an upset star. She's left the company before high and dry. She went on hiatus. She did that in WWE. She walked out. She could do that to AEW, I guess, if they don't. So the question is Mecedes Mone bad for wrestling? And you could hyphen it or change it and say, is creative control bad for wrestling? I guess that's the real question. And I know your answer without spoiling it, but let's just get into it. So, I think we've got into it. So what are other examples of top stars, top draws who've used their creative control to stay on top? And, was it truly bad for wrestling?
Yeah. There's a lot of them. Triple H Reign of Terror was, as a child, I guess I wasn't a child. I was little bit older, I guess. 2006 area. Yeah, I was just out of high school, going into college, so I wasn't a child. I was a kid. Um, that was fun to watch because I was a Triple H fan. So I guess it's perspective, right? Because I loved
True.
Triple
I
H's
I
fandom.
like that was my favorite Triple H was the Evolution Triple H when he went against Kevin Nash, Scott Steiner, Booker T, and all that whatnot. But I get that
Yeah,
point.
but like you think about what Triple H did. I brought it up about how they just destroyed Sting's legacy in WWE in that match against Triple H. And you think about everything else Triple H has done to abuse his power. You could have Goldberg, Scott Steiner, Sting, Booker T. If there was someone that needed to be buried, it looks like he wanted to do it. There was one point where Kevin Nash was going to wrestle Kevin
CM
Nash
Punk.
was going to wrestle CM Punk, and Triple H is like, "No, I'm going to pin him. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to bury him." That was his mentality. He could do whatever he wants. He could beat whoever he wants. That was a huge problem. But at the same time,
Say it.
my perspective, maybe
Oh,
this is my Hogan, although he's not Triple H isn't my goat, but I love seeing it. I thought it was super cool. I thought Triple H because I watched him grow up from the pansy, you know, Triple H Helmsley guy to this. I'm like, this is badass, man. Beat everybody. These matches are awesome. So I guess his perspective, but he did definitely abuse his power.
well, but here's my thing. You said got four names, and you know I love these names because I am a WCW mark, right? But four names. Where did they all come from? What were they?
WCW.
WCW.
And he
Yeah,
had the
and
problem with Jericho too. And with Jericho.
sure, 100%, right? And we're gonna get into all these names, but we'll go one by one. As you're saying this, maybe I'll just say shut up, yeah, okay, or I'll say I'll have a fun disagreement. But here's my thing,
Mm.
right? Oh, he beat Goldberg. Oh, he look what he did to Sting, Booker T, which I agree. Booker T should have won at WrestleMania. That would have been a better story. You put Triple H could have gone over at Backlash, but again, I get it. Triple H was the evil villain. It was fun. It was riding out. However, I agree with that. But those were all WCW guys. Steiner, again, love Steiner, but again, WCW and, Triple H going with a story as Triple H as the heel was better than anything. But you go, okay, look, he put all those guys under. He buried all of them. In the process, though, he also elevated two of the biggest stars post that era or in that Ruthless Aggression era who are now legends in wrestling. People will say, man, these guys were just great. One of them is probably in the conversation for GOAT, and that's Randy Orton and Batista. He built them up, he took them under his wing, and then he let them beat him in the middle of the ring. Spitting in his face, powerbomb through the table, WrestleMania defeat over and over and over again. Randy Orton over and over and over again. Continue to elevate Randy Orton. So, yeah, there are times where he probably said, hey, man, what's the point of me losing to this guy? This guy's not going to stay here. Why would I lose to a Scott Steiner? He just showed up. And how long is he going to be here? And Steiner pretty much fell off the map after that feud. He went somewhere else and was tag team with Test and everything else. Booker T again should have gone over. It would have been a better story. Just like when Triple H used his power. Another one that was wrong, and Jericho said it, was when Triple H used his power in WWE to say, hey, we should be the main event at WrestleMania. Yeah, you are the world championship, the undisputed title, and it would make sense to me. But Rock and Hogan should not have been the second to last. It killed Jericho Triple H. That match. It was gone. That's another example. But at the same time, look what he did for people like Batista and Randy Orton, and then of course giving Daniel Bryan the rub. Of course, that was the fans. And then you go and think about what he did for Roman Reigns and whatever. So there are examples of putting the guys over because it's quote unquote best for business.
Yeah, Triple H is not on my list a lot here because I do realize, the Reign of Terror was on the list, but the fact of the matter is he did work with people and he did put people over and he always looked at the business as a different way. I don't think Triple H looked at the business or what his position was as a selfish, like I need to be on top all the time. I actually think, because come on, if someone asked you, if someone goes into the locker room of the Miami Dolphins and they go up to Tyreek Hill and they're like, hey, Tyreek, are you the best receiver in the league? You better say yes. And then you go to
Sure.
Jalen Waddle. Hey, Jalen Waddle, are you the best in the league? Jalen Waddle better say yes. Same thing with Triple H. He thought he was, and he was, the best heel and the best wrestler in the world at that time, and he was. So it actually was best for him to be on top. It's just the way he did it. People didn't like that, and I think the Booker T situation. I think if Booker T would have went over, I think he would get a lot less slack these days. I truly
I
think that
agree.
because
I
that
think that
really,
yeah,
really
I
pisses people
100%.
off.
I think that's bigger than Sting. I think again because Sting, like Maria says, that Sting should have gone over his one and only WrestleMania. I think Sting thought he was to be around a lot longer than he did. But at the same time, that was another screw up, right? It would have been better, but again, that WrestleMania, I don't know, dude. I just look at it a different way. But again, Booker T was the biggest screw up. That should have been a Booker T win. It would have been better. It would have been a bigger story. It is what it is. Moving on. What other name we got here?
All right, I'll go here. Randy Orton. Randy Orton. We all love Randy Orton now. We sing a song. He's great, but he's got issues too. He likes to bully people in the back in the day. 2009, Kofi Kingston's first push. Remember this? Remember Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton? He was
I remember that.
thrown into that triple threat match against John Cena, and he messed up. Kofi Kingston forgot the finish. And that's when Randy Orton,
Idiot.
stupid, right? Over and over and over. After that, Kofi was buried. Kofi was done. They said, imagine that. Imagine having that much power. You can go to your boss and go, this guy just ain't got it, dude. And you just took a man's career, a push, a raise, a promotion, and he had the power just to squash it because of one mistake, two mistakes. You forgot one thing. I understand it's big business, but he also did it with Mr. Anderson. Remember Mr. Kennedy?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Got him fired as well. It's like, I don't like the idea of people in any kind of workplace having the power to be able to fire a coworker. That's just odd to me. And that's just how wrestling works, but it shouldn't be. Like, how do you feel about that? Other wrestlers campaigning for other demises of other peers.
So that's a different beast because that's not creative control. That's just power in the locker or having the boss's ear. That I don't agree with, getting anybody fired. I do understand saying, hey, man, I just don't think this guy has it. He shouldn't be in this position right now. He forgot the finish. That's amateur. And that makes sense for Randy Orton or John Cena or anybody who know what it takes. They're young. Those guys are in their primes, and you put Kofi Kingston in this spot. And obviously he had his push after that and killed it. And, obviously right now he's kind of on the downside again. But he did mess up his spot. And again, when you're with two guys who are trying to create a story and they know every little ink and detail, and you come in and mess that up, you're thrown in there and you mess it up. And of course you have someone like Randy Orton who was not in the best headspace, basically like, what the hell, dude, you're stupid, which probably killed his morale, Kofi, because he's hearing all that, I understand going to your boss and saying, hey man, look, I know you're high on, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, maybe it's someone else. I know you're high on this kid. I know you want him in this thing, but look what he almost did, or look what he did. He messed up the story. He's messing up the finish. I don't want to work with him right now. I'm only going to work with guys who know how to do their job. That's different. But going to someone and saying like, hey, I don't want to work with this guy. Get him out of here. If you don't do it, I'm gone. That I don't work with. That I don't agree with. There's no way that, be a professional. If if you can't work with him in a match, that's a different story. Or in a high profile match, maybe you could work on him on a Raw or a taping or something. But to get someone fired, I agree. That's wrong. But that's different from creative control. Because I can understand saying, hey, look, he wasn't ready. Don't put me in that situation again. It made me look bad. I don't see the fault in that.
You don't see the fault in that, but what do you think about Mr. Kennedy? Yes, Maria, he came back. Mr. Kennedy came back for one match. He gave Randy Orton a suplex, and Randy Orton fell wrong. And after that match, Mr. Kennedy was fired. I actually watched Stevie Richards break this bump down. And to his expertise, nothing wrong with the bump. It was just seemed to be personal reasons, and that's what everyone else thinks as well. So I don't know, it's kind of crappy. But Randy Orton, I didn't hear much other stories other than that. But there's a lot of Hogan ones. Do you want to go? What's your favorite Hogan? Like, that doesn't work for me, brother.
That's a good question.
I have one. We're gonna talk about it, but
okay. So my favorite doesn't work for me, brother. Do you mean in a way like just as a top story, or do you mean one where I like that he did that? Because I don't know if I
It's
have
like,
one.
what's your
You just
what's like what? Yeah,
the
yeah,
most
sure,
famous
whatever.
one to me.
Sure, yeah, the most famous one.
Well, the most infamous one was Bash at the Beach, but that was just a cluster. Um, I guess it would have to be the most famous one was Starcade '97, right? Sting and Hogan, because
I
that ended up right. I mean,
okay. That maybe. I think the funniest one, WrestleMania 9. Hogan just after the main event. Just imagine that. Imagine we're watching Roman and Seth this year, and Cody comes out. No, I need to win that title because we can't have a bad guy leave it. WrestleMania 9. That's how it finished. Yoko beat Brett, right? And then Hulk Hogan came out and challenged Yoko and won the title. The story was Hogan said it just doesn't seem right to go after WrestleMania with a bad guy winning. And Hogan doesn't see Brett as the right person to take over his spot. Sound familiar? He said the same thing about Warrior. He says the same thing about everyone.
and he was right about Warrior.
He was. But it's crazy to think like he booked a main event match that was never even in the ecosystem. Just it wasn't even there. It's just his idea at WrestleMania. Hey, boss, I think we should do this tonight. That's wild, man. Like that's on the fly making a match that doesn't make sense. How do you feel about that, Bobby?
You said it because like you know my answer. Yeah, the way you said it, it's like, oh, I don't know if I want to answer. It's a trap. Yeah. How was the crowd's reaction?
The
What did
crowd's
the crowd?
always going to react. The crowd's
Come
always
on,
going to react
Snappy,
if they
just tell
don't.
the truth. They popped.
How was the crowd's reaction when Finn Balor, and JD McDonough won the tag team champions on Raw? Freaking roof blew off the place.
Sure.
But is it because they were there for a moment or because they actually liked the moment?
They were there for a moment, right?
Same thing.
But exactly. But the like you said, okay, Roman versus Seth for the title, right? And let's say however way Cody wins. He has the Money in the Bank, right? In the match, that's the only way he could get that title shot. Oh no, let's just do it the same scenario. Roman versus Seth, and Seth loses to Roman. Roman's back as on the tribal chief, right? Roman's standing strong. He just defeated Seth. Seth's on the oh my god, Cody comes out. Oh man, hey, Cody's doing his normal good guy stick, and then Roman's there over there, and let's say he's with Paul Heyman, right? We're doing reverse roles, but just an example. He's there with Paul, and like he was with Mr. Fuji, Yokozuna, and he goes, "Hey Cody, what are you doing? What if you run someone? I challenge you right now. Come in this ring. I bet I'll beat you too." The crowd's gonna go crazy. The crowd's like, yes, yes, yes. Cody's gonna go, what? Me? He's gonna look around. He's gonna do the whole, the whole crying thing, the whole shtick. Seth's gonna go, do it, go. Cody runs in. Crowd goes crazy. Cody takes off his shirt, does the whole, the freaking Cody thing. 1, 2, 3. Wins. The crowd's gonna go nuts. The IWC's gonna go crazy. Cody's the champion. Oh my god. No one's gonna complain about it. And, that's just what again, the crowd popped. Hogan got what he wanted. The crowd popped. He looked at Vince and said, I told you so. I told you. Of course, he ended up dropping it to Yokozuna. And I can understand why would good guy versus good guy, Hogan versus Brett. That should have been Hogan versus Brett should have happened in WCW, Hollywood Hogan versus Bret Hart, but that never did. But good guy Brett versus good guy Hogan, you saw what happened with Warrior and Hogan. It didn't work. Warrior flopped, and Warrior used creative control. He held Vince McMahon hostage and whatever. Bret Hart, because he, everybody, and I love Bret Hart, right? We all love him, right? But let's stop pretending he's an innocent victim of creative control. He tried to implement creative control. He did implement creative control in WWF. He said, I don't want to lose to Shawn Michaels. He told Kevin Nash and Undertaker, that's going to make me look weak. I don't want to do that. And Undertaker said, it's not about you, bro. It's a famous story. Bret Hart has done that. The top guys do it. And guess what? I wouldn't say Hogan was too wrong about Bret Hart being the top guy. It didn't last very long. Hogan lasted forever because he was smart. He knew, and he knew how to work the crowd. Bret Hart didn't. It went away pretty quick. That's why Bret Hart got screwed, because he didn't want to lose. He didn't want to drop the title to Shawn. Creative control happens. All the top guys do it. So yeah, it was kind of weird, like why is Hogan doing this? You go back and watch it. Hogan had nothing to do with that match, but also it's like, let's go in there. Yeah, but guess what it did? It did its job. It made the fans pop. Now we're older and we weren't there, but we go back and watch it. And we go, oh, there it was. There it is. Damn, dude, what a cringeworthy moment that was. Crap, man. If that was around now, if that happened now, the IWC were, Cody, they'd be going crazy for it. Come on now.
No, they wouldn't. Oh, they would not. We're a lot smarter now than we were back then, WrestleMania 9. What about this? 2005, same person, Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels. If you were the booker, let's say you are Vince, and you tell Shawn Michaels, hey, Hogan's going to beat you at SummerSlam, but you're going to get your win back at Survivor Series in a cage match. Would you say yes? Or would no? If you're the booker, I messed that up. I'm the booker. You're Shawn Michaels. Would you say yes? Okay, cool. I'll lose the Hogan.
I thought it was the other way
No,
around. I thought it was supposed to be
Hogan. No,
Michaels goes over and then Hogan gets it back.
I just read. I read today.
I may be wrong. I may be wrong. If you got it,
I may be wrong too. I read today too. I read that.
Because you're talking about the
oversell.
Yes, got you. Okay.
Well, then Hogan said he doesn't have enough strength to wrestle 2 matches. He can only do 1. So the decision was made that he was going to win at SummerSlam, and that's when Shawn Michaels did all that crazy stuff.
But because from what I remember, because I think like you say Hogan, because when Hogan brought it up later when they asked him about it, I don't think the oversells bother him as much, but even though we all knew what Shawn was doing, I think it was the night after when Shawn went on the mic and buried Hogan on the mic, because Hogan said that the idea was supposed to be a trilogy. It was supposed to be Hogan goes over, then Shawn goes over, then Hogan, something like that, and it didn't end up going. So I don't know if Hogan. I don't know. I never heard Hogan saying he didn't have 2 matches. Hogan's always for the paycheck. Hogan, that's money, because he ended up wrestling Randy Orton the next SummerSlam, right?
It says right here, Hogan allegedly refused to participate in multiple matches series and insisted on a single encounter where he would win. This meant Michaels had to turn heel, which he reportedly was hesitant to do at this point in his career.
Because he was,
yep. So there was never, there was, they wanted multiple matches, but Hogan said, "Nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to beat Shawn Michaels."
I heard the other way, but I mean, I don't know if that doesn't make sense, because I mean, it makes. I'm not saying that doesn't make sense. That I don't think that notion makes sense for him to say he can't, that the trilogy, but do you really want to see, do we really all wanted to see Hogan versus Michaels more than 3 times? Do we want to see them more than once? It probably would have, just as, because you want to get one on the other, but how many times do you want to see it? They're two, the statures are different. It was exciting to see Shawn Michaels Sweet Chin Music Hogan. I remember that. That was like, whoa! That was awesome.
That was awesome. Yeah.
That was one of the coolest moments. Like, it was cool when Shawn Michaels was, Hulk Hogan's my partner, and it was, whoa! Crowd went crazy. And then, I love heel Shawn Michaels. It's always going to be better than good guy Shawn Michaels. I'm not a big good guy Shawn Michaels guy. Heel Shawn Michaels was the best version of Shawn Michaels. And to see that was awesome. And it was great. And the overexcited, when I was watching that match and I saw the exaggeration, I was like, that's crazy. But at the same time, I was like, that's him. That's what he did. He did that with all the big guys. It was a little extra, but it did it. I didn't know. That's why when all the stories started coming out, and then eventually when I was, I don't think Shawn ever really talked about it, but I know Hogan did. And Hogan was like, he didn't really, he said he didn't have a problem with the oversells. It was more of afterwards when Shawn just completely shut it all down on Monday night, the night after. And Hogan was like, the hell, I thought this was supposed to be a whole one after the other. So, but who knows? We did the whole thing on Hogan File, so that could totally be a Hogan File. But yeah,
Hogan's
no,
not the most trustworthy person.
No, you can't. He's not a trustworthy source. We know that.
What do you think about my last 2 were John Cena. They're both John Cena. What do you want to start with? Jack Swagger or Nexus? Which one do you want to defend first? Because I know you're the big. This is what it's become, guys.
No,
I'm bringing up top stars, and Bob, I'm just throwing them out there. Here's the evidence. This is why this guy did this. Bobby's like, so he's John Cena. He can beat anyone he wants. Well, then let's go. Do you think John Cena deserved to be the sole survivor and to beat all of Nexus by himself, even though Edge and Chris Jericho said, hey, man, that's probably not a good idea. They're trying to build this new faction up pretty well. And John's like, nah, I'm going to do my thing. How can you defend that?
No. Okay. So if you were to let me answer your question before you decided to try to answer it for me, I think Jack Swagger, I have no issue with that because what was he after? And Nexus was, I've heard that story that he buried Nexus, or basically he said, I'm not, let me go over on him. Nexus was, I love stories like that. I love when a group comes in and there's a sense of realism to it. When Nexus showed up and beat on the announce team, and I remember the guys for AEW now, the announcer, the ring announcer, Justin Roberts. Is it Justin Roberts?
Yep.
So remember, like, he tried to run away and they caught him and they beat the hell out of him, and it was like, you knew it's a story, but at the same time, you're like, damn, like, you're kind of like, that's kind of messed up. And it was perfect. It was the best thing, it was one of the best things that you could see on TV. And the talent was there, right? Daniel Bryan was in there, Ryback,
David Otunga,
all those guys, right? There's some. Excuse me.
So many. Husky Harris was Husky.
That was
Harris
Bray Wyatt,
there?
right? Yeah, Husky Harris.
I don't
know
if he was in that group though. To be honest with you,
I think he was. No, I think he was.
Darren Young.
Darren Young was in there. So yeah, that was criminal. That was like, hey, come on. I can understand, like, oh, do we, like, again, the good guy? Do we really want to see the bad guy on top? Sometimes you do, and it would probably been good for all of them to be on top, or to get that night and then kind of build them up. Because to me, that group was a lot scary. Like, I don't want to say scary like Undertaker. I don't mean that, but I mean like legit. Like, damn, dude, be careful. But, when you see them pop up, that's dangerous because that they're like wolves. It was better than the Shield debut. To me. I thought Nexus's debut was on fire. I thought that was great. Way better than the Shield debut.
Oh, yeah. So I agree too. I agree too. So Cena then has apologized and said he's wrong. He should have never done that. He should have listened. So that's the good thing about Cena. This is what I've learned from this. I've watched a lot of videos today. I've read a lot of Google searches. I've really been looking at this topic as a whole today. And the one thing I've realized, whether it's Triple H or Randy Orton or Kevin Nash, nobody regrets or says what they did was wrong, or they don't even question it. It is what it is. That's just what it was. Or, oh, it didn't work out. Well, I did what I was supposed to do. You guys just didn't understand it. Oh, you didn't like the finger poke of doom? That's because you didn't get it. That's Kevin Nash. Oh, but did they pop, brother? Remember that's you. You just said that. Did they pop, brother? Kevin Nash.
That's fair. I agree.
Yeah. So no one takes accountability. And that's the one thing. Like, that's just, but for real though, like, not one of these wrestlers or people of power have taken accountability for anything they've done. And John Cena was the only person that actually did. So, well done.
Because he's the ultimate good guy. He's, even if he doesn't believe it, he'll say it. That was probably a mistake, man. And then Lenny Carter goes, "What idiots? He actually believed me." Where are those guys now?
I surely believe that Cena was doing the right thing, or he thought he was doing the right thing, whereas other guys are just, this is what I'm going to do. And honestly, we're seeing that in AEW a lot. And I know this is an AEW conversation, but
no, but I think that's a whole wrestling conversation. It's a wrestling conversation.
But I think that's why AEW is so unorganized and hard to follow for people, because you got people like the Bucks who are supposed to be EVPs, top talent, but they're only going to work with their friends. And then you got the Hurt Syndicate. They're only doing their thing when they're on TV. Like, imagine watching a movie and every scene is directed by a different director. That movie, Bobby, you went to film school. That movie would be a disaster. And that's what we're seeing in specifically AEW right now. You got the Hurt Syndicate with MVP and MJF. They're doing their thing. And then you do another segment and it's, the Young Bucks and Will Ospreay and Swerve. That looks totally different from what I just saw. And then we're going on to Don Callis and those guys. It's like, did I just watch 3 different TV shows? And that's what's going on when they all have control over their own stories or they have their own input of how they're going to do it.
The problem, great points, and I'm not disagreeing because it's coming to my head as you're telling me. Here's my thing. The problem with AEW right now, and where creative control, quote unquote, can work, right? So right now, when you look at, we know there are guys in AEW that are better than others, right? You go, man, you bring it up, Will Ospreay, one of the best in-ring guys in wrestling, not just in AEW, but in wrestling, right? He could do it all. You put him against anybody in the ring, he'll probably, with a broomstick, he'll make it look like $1 million. He'll do a 5-star match with a broomstick, right? He's one of those type of wrestlers. The problem is, even though he is, right, Swerve and all those guys, a lot of them, they all kind of like this. There's not one guy who you could go, oh, that dude's the top dog. Yeah, you may say that, but in AEW, they're not presented as such. AEW would do really good if they had a guy, because Jeff Jarrett is one, right? That's a name on there that I had on my list for TNA. Jeff Jarrett, right? We know what happened with Bash at the Beach and Hogan. Hogan was, Hogan didn't want to, give it to Jeff, and Jeff was all hurt over it. And so what did he do after he left? He helped find TNA and with NWA, and he had a big run in TNA. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed finding out who was showing up on TNA to face Jeff Jarrett and to Jeff Jarrett to eventually beat. He kept himself on top for a long time, but guess what? That made people watch. Triple H, the Reign of Terror. Oh man, beat Goldberg and Steiner and Booker T, and man, look what all these guys. But guess what? We were watching every week to find out who, or after every paper to find out who was coming now to try to face. AEW would do really good if they had someone like a Triple H, Jeff Jarrett type of guy who was in there, who had themselves on top. It's going to annoy all the IWC. Oh, he's stealing the spotlight. But guess what? Everyone and their mother are going to be watching that one guy facing and have these other guys show up, have these legends show up, or these other guys. Oh, here comes, whatever, to throw any kind of guy on the market that people know about, have him go against him, have him win. Then that's when people are going to start tuning in. But the problem is, it's, you had the title here, now it's your turn. Oh, hey, you were the main event, now it's your turn. Oh, hey, let's be buddies, let's be tag match together. What's going on here? That's why they're all like this. If you had a Jeff Jarrett or Triple H who actually had control over their characters or had control over their matches and were leading the way, AEW would be a different beast right now. Would be a different beast. But because of that whole saying, because I was looking at the other day, and Will Ospreay and Swerve are standing together, and it's like I thought these two were just trying to kill each other. It's there's no longevity, there's no story, there's no top dog. There isn't. You can pretend there is, there's not. MJF should probably be that guy. MJF should be the guy on the top, not Moxley or whomever the hell the champion is. I don't even know who it is. That's a problem. I don't even know who the AEW champion is.
It's Moxley.
You see, I didn't even know that. I just saw him on TV. I didn't see the belt. He's bringing up CM Punk, best in the world. That's basic, but what are we talking about?
I knew you'd see that clip.
Yeah,
is that all over social media? I watched time.
It is. Okay. I did.
I figured it would be.
That's the only time I catch up on AEW. No. But I see Jeff Jarrett, I see Triple H, but guess what? Or Goldberg, right? Goldberg, that was a whole WCW booking. And guess what? Guess who put Goldberg over? Hogan. What? It was Hogan who put him over. I never heard of that. Yeah, he put guys over, But Goldberg, the streak. How many of us all hate the streak now? Right? How many of the IWC and all them hate the streak? But guess what? They all loved it back in the day. Guess what? That WCW lost their first Monday night before the streak, before Goldberg. Goldberg came in, won the title. They started winning again. People started tuning in to Goldberg because they're like, dude, who the hell is Goldberg? I love these 2-minute matches. This guy's a monster. Now, 20 years from now, we got, oh, dude, what a loser, man. He can't even wrestle a fight. He can't wrestle a broomstick. Oh, guess what? AEW do really well if they had a Goldberg type of guy. They don't. That's when that stuff works. When you don't have to put everybody over. Putting everybody and their mother over is bad for business. Sometimes having creative control or protecting your character, especially if you're a top dog like Mecedes Mone, John Cena, Hogan, Hart, whatever, Roman Reigns, because believe me, he does. That's when it's good for business. That's an example of that.
You know,
Who is that guy?
circle
The
around.
Goldberg. You said they did have a Goldberg. Who was it?
Oh, Phil Brooks, Cody
Oh,
Rhodes.
okay, yeah. No, you're right.
They
That could
they
have been.
had
That could
him.
have been. That's true. That's true. And what did they do?
They
You had
chose
the
they
nobodies.
chose the Bucks.
Yeah, exactly. Who?
Exactly. The
Who are
biggest
those?
mistake in AEW's,
Sorry.
we all know it. The biggest mistake was choosing the Bucks over CM Punk, and that's what. But that's not the story. Look, Mercedes is there, and she's on that level, and she could be there, but she's using her power in the wrong way. She's using it to elevate herself to get back to WWE. But guess what? To me, it's not working. What she's doing is great. She could wrestle amazing. I cannot wait to watch Tony Storm. By the way, I'm not going to be watching live, and we'll talk after the show. I cannot be here next week. We might have to do a pre-show. Scott Fishbowl, fantasy football. If you're into fantasy football, yeah, I have a live draft, Bobby. And it sucks because I wanted to watch AEW All In. I really was going to buy this pay-per-view. I was going to spend the $50 and I was going to watch Mercedes and Tony. I was going to watch the tag team with the Bucks and Will Ospreay and Swerve. I was going to watch Moxley beat Hangman. Sorry, Maria. Sorry. Hangman's not winning this title. It's not going to happen. Creative Control strikes again. Moxley's going to live forever and we're all going to hate it. But anyway, they have it, Bobby. They have Mercedes there. They have the top of the top there. What is she doing? Why are you not tuning in? She's doing everything you want. She's beating everybody.
No, she's not.
Why
doing
aren't you
what
interested?
I want.
But why
No,
aren't
she's
you
not
interested?
doing what I want. Again, why am I interested? Why aren't I interested? What does she do? Again, we talked about it. It's just jumping from person, but there's no story. There's nothing going on there. Mecedes Mone is not, it's not going to be enough for me to turn on AEW TV. Not. What made me turn on AEW TV?
Mariah May.
Thank you. Mariah May, the Tony Storm story, right? That was worth it. Mariah May was worth it. Phil Brooks, CM Punk. That made you go, whoa, wait a second. He's where? Let me go watch. Maria Britt says that CM Punk was a jerk in AEW. Again, I'm sure he was. He usually is. He just finally, found the good way to be in WWE. He's being a good dude and all this whatnot. But guess what? He used to say what the Young Bucks were saying about him. That's what he said about Triple H and company in WWE before, when he was leaving. Oh, they never put anybody over. Oh, they did this to me and that. Now that's what they were saying about him. And then he realized, wait a second, the hell are we doing here? That doesn't make money. I'm here to make money.
Before we log off, I got to get to that because
go ahead.
Oh yeah, because Punk was a jerk and I thought the same thing.
Well, and I will say, can I just full disclosure? And then you finish. You were the first one, right? I mean, you for a while you were like screw Phil, all that whatnot. Because of all that, go ahead.
Now that everything's kind of out in the open, we're understanding what really happened. My son, when I go downstairs after this, I tell my son, "Hey, buddy, shower." No, shower now, or you're gonna get popped. Shower. No. Then I do it, and he calls me mean. Yeah, no crap. From his perspective, I'm mean because he's a child. So when Phil Brooks tells Jack Perry, "Hey, man, I don't think it's a good idea for you to break a rental car's windshield, that we don't have insured for that." And then he goes, "Why not?" Because I don't think it's a good idea to do on my television show, because he did run Collision.
Yeah, he was running it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then they go, "Well, he's mean." Why? Because he's an adult? And because he's looking out for you and the company? So yeah, they're gonna think he's a jerk and mean because he had logic. Like Adam Page. Let's trust me. And this is nothing. I love Adam Page. I love AEW. I'm not a IWC person. I'm not. I can speak, I guess, thoughtfully on both sides. Adam Page is the first person to go off script and attacks CM Punk without his knowledge. CM Punk clapped back.
Yeah.
CM Punk clapped back. Everything CM Punk did was retaliation, not instigation. And you can say what you want about him. You can say this, you can say that. He's a hypocrite. I watched Botchamania, by the way, because I don't go on social media, and I saw all the memes on. They put them all on Botchamania. All those blood money memes, they were hilarious. So CM Punk, I can still make fun of him for that because he did say he was never going to wrestle there, and he did. He's a hypocrite. But again, you look at everything he said since he left that company. Everything he said came true, and everything is correct. When he went on Ariel Helwani, he told you play by play what he did to Jack Perry. They played the video, play by play of what he did. He's not a liar. That just proved he's not. They just proved he wasn't a liar. So why would I think that his story wasn't true? Why would I not think that he has nothing to lose to lie? So he's not in my opinion, now that I kind of grew up a little bit and understood the situation and took both sides, he's not the bad guy here. The Bucks were, and I love the Bucks. I love the Bucks. I love the comedy. I love the wrestling. I love everything about them, but they were in the wrong. I admit it now. 2025, July 5th.
Maria says a real man doesn't start a fight just because someone said broken glass, cry me a river. I don't know. All I say is
that's true.
Yeah, it's what it is. It is what it is. But where's CM Punk now, and who's Jack Perry? I know who Jack Perry is, but I'm just saying, like, to me, Punk was a jerk to begin with. Like you said, I know the Hangman Page thing. I remember that when he, and Punk was saying they had a story, or they had an idea what they were going to say out there. They go out there, and Page was saying something else, and Punk could barely hear him because of the crowd, and then he figured it out. And to me, that's sabotage. What's the point of that? You have CM Punk standing around aside, someone who made his name nationally, who not just in wrestling community, but nationally, people are watching you right now. You're on the main stage with a main player, and you pull off something like that. And that's why you'll always be a B player on a B team. Jack Perry's the same thing. Jack Perry's not B, he's C, maybe. Just touching it. He's a C player. Jungle Boy, right? That's what we're talking about here. So you're working with CM Punk. Jerk or not, CM Punk, he comes to you. Hey, dude, don't do glass. Like, what's the point? Let's do fake glass. Let's do something else. Like, whatever it was. All right, man. Maybe you work with him one day. And guess what? Punk, you work with him. Oh, does he put you over? Who knows? But then you work with him. But no, you decided to be a pain in the ass and get into a fight. And Punk leaves. Punk is running the world right now in WWE. Not even needs the title. Killing it. Where are you? Nowhere to be found. C+ player, C player on the B team. And that's where you're going to stay. Because you guys couldn't work with the big dogs because they're the bad guys. The big dogs are the bad guys. They all want to be there. They all want that spot. But until they get there, and if they never do, they're going to cry me a river. They'll be on shoot interviews 10 years from now going, Punk held me down. Roman held me down. Come on.
If you want proof of that, just go on YouTube after us. You're already on YouTube here on the Fins Talk Sports Network, by the way. But go after our show. Just type in Being the Elite. Go back to the older videos. Watch all the Cody stuff. Every episode, Cody, FTR, F the Revival to them, making fun of WWE on every single show, making fun of Stardust, his character, every single show. Cody made fun of WWE every single show, but we all now know where he really wanted to be.
Yeah. They all want to be there. They all want to be on top. And that's my thing. So that's why, like, when I hear, like, I get it. He's a jerk. It's noted. There's a lot of people who've said it. WWE and AEW and all the above. But that's why he is where he is. He survived pipe bomb and all the above. He's way past the pipe bomb. And that's why a lot of these guys, the Mecedes Mone, Becky, Charlotte, John Cena, Roman Reigns, the Hogans in the world, we're just talking about current guys, the top ones. That's why they're there. And that's why everybody's down here. Jerking works. It's easy to start fights with Jack Perry. How did Punk lose? That's fair. That's fair.
It's fair. It's fair. I'm not one of these people who defend.
Maria, are you typing with a CM Punk shirt on? I just imagine Maria typing and she has a Best in the World shirt on. Screw CM Punk.
I'm really happy you got that. You saw the clip. I knew you weren't going to watch Moxley when he said that, but whenever he said that, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. the best thing about Dynamite, by the way, and maybe someone could back me up, if we got 64 people watching, no matter what format you're watching, I really appreciate it. We appreciate it. So
Yeah.
drop a like, man. This has been a fun show. Anyway, whenever they said Tony Khan on AEW, did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear that part.
So they were yelling at the Young Bucks, and it was Swerve. You don't run AEW. The CEO and owner Tony Khan runs this place, and you hear boo. You hear boos in the crowd, and Will Ospreay's like, yeah, and another, like he's just trying to like save it. It's like, dude, of all the bad things Vince has done and all the terrible things he's done, no matter what, when Vince came out,
they cheered,
standing ovation. Tony Khan, brother, you only been in the game for about 6 years, 7 years, and you're already getting booed. Damn, Vince did horrible things. I bet you he'd come out right now and get popped.
He would. I know he would. And but my thing is Tony Khan. I mean, he doesn't play a heel or nothing, right? He's just the owner. He doesn't play a character on TV.
No.
Yeah, you see. So
we just all hate him.
And I think it's really out of like respect, right? Vincent's Vince. The the demigod of wrestling. So but I get it. It's true. And it's what it is, man. It's what AEW is right now. But anyway, no, I knew this was gonna be a fun show. We love doing this. We love debating and getting into it with everybody and having a good time. And we thank everybody for tuning in wherever you're watching from. We appreciate you. If you watched anywhere other than YouTube, do us a favor, hop on over to YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button, and then jump on to FTSN Extra and hit that subscribe button. That channel is growing. I'm excited. You can catch Josh on Thursday nights with Clutch and Chris Koffler on Real Talk Wrestling. They had a fun show the other night. I enjoyed watching that one. I like picking on Josh because then he doesn't have to yell at me back because I could just put my headphones down and not have to hear him and not get in trouble for it. So, but that was a good show. So do us a favor and do that. I hope you all have a great weekend. FTSN will continue tomorrow. Unless there's a show I don't know about, but I always love that when that happens, when somebody puts a show on and I didn't know what was going on. But tomorrow on Deck Baseball Podcast will be live with Russ Morgan. He'll be live talking about, of course, baseball this week and then the surging Miami Marlins and, of course, the baseball draft, which will be next weekend. So make sure you guys are subscribing to both channels. He'll be on FTSN Extra, so you want to check that out. But Josh, any final thoughts?
Yeah, man, it's been a fun show. I cannot wait to actually watch Evolution next week. I'm going to try to watch All In. I'll be in Orlando when that's going on. So this time next week, I'll be in Orlando just drafting fantasy football. But I'm just excited for it's a big weekend, dude. Huge. We got Evolution, All In, SmackDown, an ROH show, which I know you're excited for the ROH show.
I am.
And NXT Great American Bash. We got 5 wrestling shows that people might be watching this weekend. So, or next weekend.
There you go. So make sure you guys are watching all those. Shout out to everyone who watched. To Sammy of Finn's TV. Appreciate him. Adrian, guys, if you love wrestling, you love sports, go check out Adrian on the Rainy Day Pod. Maria, thank you so much. Shorts, thank you for coming in. She says Mecedes Mone rocks. Appreciate that. Justin, great to see you, brother. Thank you. Check out Justin on Ruckus Entertainment. And anyone else who tuned in. Appreciate y'all. So like and subscribe and peace.